I got that last bit on film.
Did you get that on film?
Yeah, I couldn't resist.
Actually, no, that would do. Okay. So you've all heard a lot of stories about how water came to the earth, but this one is actually how it happened. Okay. So, there was once this old man, and he was on his own. He was completely alone, and his hands were made of sticks and wood, and his heart was made of rock, and he was so lonely. There was no one else around, and he just used to wander around this barren landscape completely on his own, and he was just so angry that no one else was there. And every day he would make piles out of these rocks. And that was what he was there for. All he had to do was to change the landscape and change the shape of it and make it not flat anymore. So he would just gather these big rocks up with his little spindly hands and put them one on top of the other until some of them reached the clouds. So he's gathering these rocks and these stones and he's piling them up every day, and he's just so angry and bored, and his heart's this rock, and he's just really pent up, and his hands are all crumbling, and he's trying to pick them up, and he's working really, really hard, and he just thinks, why am I doing this for? Like, who am I doing this for? No one else is here. And the clouds were the only things that brought him any kind of relief. They would block the sun sometimes and cast these beautiful shadows all over the earth. So whenever the clouds would pass through, he'd have a little rest and lie down in the shade. Until one day he just decided, right, no more, I'm not doing this anymore. And he snapped every single one of his fingers off and put them into the earth until they were all sticking up in these little shapes. And he thought they looked really odd. And he'd just sit and look at them for days on end, and he'd just watch his little hands just sticking out of the dry earth, and he was just waiting. He didn't know what he was waiting for, and he would just sit there and just watch his hands with his little stumps like this. He was still really sad, and he didn't know why, and he was just waiting. And then one day, he decided that, he realised, it was a realisation that he had to make something happen in order to get these little fingers to do something. And he didn't know what they were going to do, but he wanted them to change somehow. So he looked around and he saw his biggest rock pile. So he gathered himself up and he climbed, he moved some of his rocks, which was really difficult because he did only have stumps now. So that really hurt, and he had to work so hard and knew it would be worth it. So he moved some of them and went to his biggest rock pile, and he took a big breath and he began to climb up the biggest mountain that he'd made. And he finally got to the top, and it was a bit unsteady, and it took every part of his strength, because he's an old man, he's all wooden and frail, and his little wooden heart, his little rock heart. And he looked down, and then he looked up, and all the clouds were around him, and just his head poked over the top, so he could just see white everywhere. And he just wanted to see someone or something come out or arrive, and something